All right. I've been waiting for this one. Who out there among you is ready for the single most wholesome chapter of One Piece? Who out there is ready to cry their eyes out at the reunion between Nico Robin and Jaguar D. Saul? You're not ready for this right here. You're not ready for what is about to happen on the island of Elbaph! The specs of this axe are all off. How do you wield this with two hands? I'm just gonna set that over there. Alright, this will be Cape Flip. This will be One Piece Chapter 1133, titled Praise Me. Rather audacious title, I will say right now. The only thing I praise is this paddle over here. Are you guys ready for a paddling? I swear to God, there better be somebody in this chapter at some point paddling a canoe, or there's gonna be a paddling, let me tell you right now, ladies and gentlemen. All right, this is actually a very emotional chapter. I don't think it's the last chapter of 2024. I think there's one more after this, but it might be the last official chapter of 2024, maybe. Anyway, so we're continuing on with Yamato's cover page, Volume 20, Yamato and the Holy Inari Shrine Pilgrimage, Cape Flip. All right. We get the reveal of who the serial kidnapper of Wano was, who was, kidnapping all the waitresses, and Minatomo, who was the carpenter. He's kidnapping a carpenter, for God's sakes. What kind of guy does that? We find out, drum roll please, was it Shinobu? Was it Ulti? Was it page 1? No. Was it page 2? No. Was it page 3? Page 1 should have had like 5 brothers all named after. That would be really funny. No, it turns out it's Hold'em. Remember Hold'em, right? I know Hold'em because you gotta know when to hold him and you gotta know when to fold him. And we thought Luffy folded Hold'em, but apparently he did not because he's still around here. He's got a cool cape flip. It's like he's doing the flip as well. It's pretty neat. So we have no idea how this happened because in the last chapter, Yamato was on top of the Koma Inu and then Tama was riding on speed and they were running through the Udon region and they stopped really quickly for like a water break and they saw that the new daimyo's castle was being built in Udon, and now in the very next panel, it's like we missed something. Speed is on the ground smoking. I mean, she is smoking hot, but she's also smoking like she just got hit with a fireball, okay? Yamato is no longer on the Koma Inu, and Yamato is just like, what? And then we see Hold'em taking Tama hostage with a sword, okay? And then we also have smoke coming out of the lion's mouth, Kamijiro. Kamijiro is the name of Hold'em's lion, because he's a lion smile, right? And the face comes out of him. So he's also able to spit fireballs, like lion fire, out of the mouth. So, fun fact about Hold'em. I don't know how you guys think about him. I didn't really care much for Hold'em, honestly. Hold'em is, Oda has gone on record saying that is his favorite smile user and the favorite smile design because he's based off of a robot anime that Oda watched like back in the 70s when he was a little kid. All right, I think it's like Future Robot. It starts with the letter D, like Daisatsu or something. I don't know. I'll put it down here, right? So, like it's kind of like a Voltron-esque like robot anime, okay, that Oda liked. So he was like, oh, a lion chest robot. I'm going to incorporate that into One Piece, and that's where Hold'em comes from. So it does make sense why Hold'em, of all people, is back here. Probably just because Oda likes to draw the guy, and also, Hold'em was dealt with at the earlier parts of Wano, so you could, oh yeah, he wasn't there for Onigashima, he wasn't there for the final war or anything like that. He was taken out kind of before that. There was another little plot thread going on over in the Kuri region with Ashura Doji and the Mountain Thieves, and they were like, dealing with Hold'em and stuff like that. But yeah, he's kidnapped Tama again. The first time he kidnapped her was trying to use the Kibi no Mi abilities in order to manipulate everybody, and and that was his goal there, to try to use her power, but only she can activate her power. Nobody can like forcibly activate the power with the dongos and stuff. This time I feel like it's more of just a situation of Hold'em like grabbing Tama and being like, stay back Yamato or the kid gets it, kind of situation there. So Yamato cannot just immediately jump in and just KO Hold'em in one hit, which Yamato would be very, very easily able to do. But now, hostage situation, so how's Yamato gonna deal with this one, ladies and gentlemen? All of a sudden, we now have a hostage scenario happening here. Okay, so yeah, also, by the way, I mean, for power scalers out there, Hold'em is definitely stronger than Speed, because apparently one attack from the lion was enough to knock out Speed. And Speed is also, like, Tama's, like, big sister right now. Like, I think there was one point where Tama was just like, can you be my mom? Because Tama's parents are dead. So Speed was like, yeah, okay. And even after the effects of the Kibi Dango have waned, Speed still wants to look after Tama. So she is dedicated to help. And even with the dedication, she was still knocked out. So, yeah, I don't know where this is going here. But I'm pretty sure with Yamato's abilities and observation hockey and everything, should be able to just, like, Tama, shut your eyes for 2 seconds. Okay, boom, boom. It just wakes up and just, like, Hold'em's on the ground, like, covered in bruises and, like, giant whelps all over his head, like, I'm sorry. Just, like, should be able to deal with this pretty quickly. Okay. We start off the chapter 22 years ago during the disaster at Ohara, but this time we see this disaster from a completely different perspective, okay? I'm going to take off this Viking helmet. I'm going to keep on the chicken hat, though, because this is a very serious chapter, okay? So, you know, we've seen this perspective from Robin, we've seen it from Kuzan, you know, because Aokiji was also there, but now we are seeing it from the true hero, of course, Spondine, who was the leader of Cypher Pole 9 back in the day, all right? So he was, you know, obviously Spondum's father. He led the expedition to Ohara. He's the one that called the Buster Call that showed up and just nuked the entire island, right? So we cut to right after the incident on Ohara. Spondine is, like, at Marine HQ or whatever, and he's talking to journalists. So obviously, when an island is Buster Called, that's going to be kind of front page news for a while, right? So that's going to be a big deal. So the journalists are all coming in, and they're all just like, oh, Mr. Spondine of Cypher Pole 9, the mysterious organization that we shouldn't know that exists. What happened? And Spondine is like, oh, yes, Ohara. Sent a chill down my spine, really. It was awful. I heard that evacuation ship that got wiped out. It was blown up and swallowed by flames. Yep, and it was all because of that 8-year-old girl, Nico Robin. She's the devil child, I call her. She's a demon in human guise. If you see her, you shouldn't even approach her. Don't even listen to her story or be swayed by the devil's whispers, as it were. Just immediately report her. She has a bounty of 79 million. Bring her in. Oh, the screams of all the dead will echo in my ears for all the times. Listen to me when I tell you this. That child is a demon. She's a demon, I say. You know, and so that was Spondine's official report on Ohara, okay? And you know what? This really does, and we've seen this before. Oda is, like, doubling down with this. He really is. Because we've already got Robin's backstory before. We already saw how rough that she had it. I mean, she was on her own at age 8, running from island to island. Every single person that she thought she could trust betrayed her in some way, right? Even if she ran across, I think there was even a scene at one point where she did run into a nice family. Like, there were, like, not everybody immediately was trying to turn her into the government. Some people were like, you know, there was a sweet old grandma that was like, okay, dearie, well, I'll give you a place to stay. And then she eventually reported Robin to the government. Then there was a family that took her in for a little while. Same thing happened. There was a scene where Robin was asleep, and then she woke up and she overheard this man and his wife discussing the bounty, like, you know, that's her. We got to turn her over to the government, right? So if nothing else, this really, and Oda just shows us more of that. We see Robin, like, crying, eating out of the trash with a bunch of dogs. It gets intense. It probably gets the most intense it's ever been from a scene we're going to get in a little bit here that we did not see before with Robin's backstory. But I just want to, like, overall just explain, this is the terror of the world that the world government has wrought, okay? This is how it is, all right? Literally, you just have a bounty of 79 million being issued for an 8-year-old child. And this is an official thing by the world government and by the Marines. So even if you are a civilian that's like, okay, there's something weird about this. That doesn't make any sense. Oh, she has a weird sorcery power that was able to destroy all these battleships. Even if you're the kind of person that's like, I don't know about that. This is a very authoritative world they live in. So, like, imagine you're walking through town and you see Robin there and you're like, oh man, that's the kid from the wanted poster. Oh man, okay, if I don't report her, maybe I will get, like, you know, that was the situation with the family. With the family's like, we took Robin in. If they find out we're harboring a fugitive, then we're gonna get arrested. Okay, so we have to turn her in. We have no choice. Now, obviously, they, of course, always have a choice. You have a choice to, like, hey, this is messed up. The government is clearly wrong or whatever. You're clearly not a demon child. You're just a regular kid. So, you know, we're gonna protect you, okay? But she never encountered really anybody like that because the overwhelming oppressive power of the government was so strong. It was just like, you know, if they found out that you're harboring this kid who has a bounty, it's just like, oh, you're gonna get thrown in, you know, prison too, or you're gonna get executed too. You're like, we don't care. You know, that's how it is, right? So, and there also are just scummy people in the One Piece world that are just like, there she is right there. There she is. I see her in the market. Go grab her. You know, like it's something like that, right? So you see everybody, you see the government agents marching across the world looking for Robin. You know, also 79 million, just to put in perspective here, if we're doing the yen to dollars, like berry to yen and then yen to dollars kind of conversion with the currency and all that, Robin's bounty equals out to somewhere around $500,000. Okay, so there's also that financial incentive, you know, like that's probably enough money for any normal civilian in the One Piece world to be comfortable for the rest of their life if they turned Robin into the government, okay? So a lot of people, even if they have misgivings about this, of just like, I don't know about this one, right? Even if that's the case, it's like, that's, you pile enough money and the scummy nature of people will come out at some point. So, and then we see a bunch of like bounty hunters and pirates that are just like, oh yeah, let's go kill Robin and get her bounty, you know, let's go boys, you know, that kind of shit, right? So she had to live with this. We see her walking through a rainy town. There's a mother and her child like, we can't sleep in peace as long as that demon child is here. And you know, a bunch of people are just like, we just wish she'd just hurry up and die too. Also, keep in mind, let's say you live in a town, right? And you don't even see Robin. You're not even there when she, like, you don't even witness her, like, in the street or whatever. But then somebody sees Robin, sounds the alarm, and then the government shows up to this island, and they start, you know, marching through the street, knocking in freaking doors, and just like, you're in there having a dinner, and all of a sudden, just, boom! We heard that there's a fugitive here! Nico Robin, Devil Child, 79 million! Where are you? Were you hiding her? You harboring her? Be like, I'm just having my dinner! I don't even know about this! What? What are you talking about? And so, the government is just doing all this stuff, and it's just harboring more and more hatred. There's a guy that's just like, yeah, I just wish she would just hurry up and die. She's causing problems for all of us. And all of this stuff, all of it, is going back onto Robin. Robin is there, living in a trash pile, just like everywhere she goes, she's being told she doesn't belong, she's being told to die, she's being told that just go away, just remove yourself from existence, you shouldn't even exist. And then this culminates at a moment where Robin is on a cliffside, and she's still a kid at this point, right? Maybe only like a few months on the run here, and she is contemplating just jumping over the side and ending it all. She has a flashback to her mom, Olvia, that's screaming, Robin, you need to live, Robin. Then we have the scene with Saul. Listen carefully, Robin. Somewhere, sometime out there in the sea, I don't know when, but you will meet family. You will meet people that care about you and love you for who you are. You do belong in this world. Trust me, Robin. That was her mother and her best friend's dying words, from her perspective, dying words, okay? And so but it's hard, man. It's rough. She's a little kid having to deal with all this, for God's sakes. And so she's on the edge of this cliff, and she's crying, and she's like, why do I have to live, Mom? Why do I have to live, Saul? Why? It would be so easy if I could just, everybody doesn't like me. If I could just, it's so hard, you know? It's just like, I'm hungry, and I'm cold, and can it just end, please? So, that's, you know what? We've had a lot of tragic backstory. This is Robin's second tragic backstory. This is the sequel. This is the sequel to this shit, right? This is like if we get a sequel to Brooke's backstory that's even sadder somehow, right? Oh man, but no, this is probably as intense as it's ever gotten because, you know, we've seen a lot of the Straw Hats backstories, but this is one where she's straight up just contemplating ending it all, like on the edge of a cliff about to jump. Okay, that hits hard, dude. So now we see her in a market square and on some random island, and she's wearing this old dirty cloak, you know, hoodie kind of thing to kind of stay away from, like, so she's, you know, not obvious. And she picks up, she's at like a stall that sells like map books, like cartography books. So she picks up a cartography book and she flips through it, and O'Hara has now vanished from the maps of the world. So the government works fast with this. They reissued entire cartography books within, like, I don't know, a year or so, completely removing O'Hara from all of the books. And so Robin takes out, like, a marker, and she actually adds in O'Hara where it should be in the West Blue. Somebody grabs her and just like, hey, wait a minute! You're Robin! It's like, ah! And then so she runs away. Now, Robin does have her Hana Hana no Mi at this point. That is important to mention, okay? And that's why the government kind of spreads the story of like, oh yeah, she's gonna use some weird magic power, don't be fooled, right? So she can use her abilities to get herself out of tight situations. It's probably how she's avoiding most capture, right? You know, she doesn't want to hurt people and stuff, but it's pretty convenient when you're running away from somebody and you could just use the Hana Hana no Mi to, like, you know, grab their ankles and trip them up and knock them down, and then you can get away. But this is like an everyday occurrence for her. This is like every single day she's dealing with this, right? And we just have a moment where she's just running and running, and this is how the flashback ends. You know, she'll pretend to be this innocent child, and then she'll kill you in your sleep. You know, that's all the horrible, horrible things. People are shouting at her all the time. And just imagine that. Imagine that for a moment. You really can't, but dude. So she runs away while laughing, while using Saul's laugh, the dara-she-she-she laugh, and that's all she can do at this point. So now we cut back to the present. We cut back to the present where the Great Eric has arrived at the sun level of the Elbaph tree. They've arrived in their village, and they're docking at the port. So the port is a cloud port. So they leave the Rainbow Bridge, and they're on Island Cloud, and they land right there, and they're right in front of a dock, and there's a giant pub, like a much, much bigger pub than the one down below, like a giant banquet hall that's right there, okay? And so all these giants are welcoming the Great Eric and Dory and Broggy back. Captains, you've returned! We were getting worried! You were getting a little late there! It's like, yeah, we had a couple of hang-ups, you know, sleeping bells, we lost some of the straw hats, you know, but it's alright, we managed to get everybody back together. In record time, too, that's crazy, right? So once again, the Straw Hats, like Brooke even says, like, it feels like my head's not even working, and that's saying something because, you know, I'm a skeleton, yo! But he's like looking around, he's like, man, the scale of everything, the fact you just came off of a... Keep in mind, they came off of a rainbow bridge and are docking their ship in cloud on a giant tree. So trying to wrap your head around that, you know, it's just something. Also, I guess this would be, I mean, okay, I guess in Egghead they saw the island cloud in like Skypiea, not Skypiea, but like the Pyrobrine making the clouds and all that stuff, right? But Brooke, you know, before Egghead has never been on like Island Cloud before, you know, they've never been to the, you know, Sky Islands and stuff like Jean Bay and Frankie because they weren't there during Skypiea, right? Robin, Frankie, Bonnie, Lilith, Jean Bay. We still don't see Kuma. Some people have brought up, it's like, what about Kuma? Isn't Kuma still on the ship? And he is there. I was hoping that we were gonna see him. Maybe we do in the background. I'd have to go through like every single panel. But yeah, the Kuma is essentially a vegetable at this point. He has a little bit of like, you know, facial expressions. Like he can, like we've seen him smiling and things. But beyond that, there's really not much they can do for him right now. Maybe Lilith can do something. But I think, you know, he's either gonna stay on the ship or they're gonna bring him somewhere like under a nice tree and he'll just be there with the birds, like Android 16 style or something like that. I don't know really. But yeah, they all arrive and then they look over and they see that Luffy's group is now arriving from where they were coming from. Okay, so they didn't take the Rainbow Bridge. They came up, you know, the other way through the underworld. So they look over and we see a canoe being paddled. Paddling the sky canoe? That's a paddling. You better believe that's a paddling. Okay, then. All right. So this is actually a pretty cool thing. So it's a thing called the Mist Ship, or the Slavar. Slavar. I cannot speak Nordic for the life of me. Anyway, it's a smaller ship that is, you know, they row it, but the ends of the oars, like where this part of the oar would be, is cloud. Okay, so you're literally rowing with cloud, like the island cloud and stuff. So that's how they stay. It stays like buoyant and is like floating in the air. And it's like, when you're doing this, it's like the entire ship is just cloaked in a misty, like, embrace below it, and that's what's carrying it along. And that's actually a really cool design. So this is where Gerd and Goldberg, we're gonna see Road in a moment, and what they've done to Road is actually really hilarious and very appropriate considering all the stuff that he did to the Straw Hats and all that stuff. So the ship is about to land, the Mist ship is about to dock with Luffy and Usopp's group. Lilith is there, and she says, island clouds and sea clouds, bubbles, rainbows, and hover technology. All of this stuff can coexist on Elbaph. The unique climate is conducive to all forms of science. So that's actually a really cool piece of lore there, and also gives us a little bit more of a questions of like what the Treasure Tree of Adam even really is, because apparently, remember when they mentioned like Vega Force 1 and certain technology could only operate in Egghead's airspace. We also know that bubbles can only exist in certain parts of the world, like under the ocean and in the climate around the Sabaody archipelago. However, this place seems to be the natural exception to this, whereas Egghead was a artificial exception, because Vegapunk studied all of these things and modified the climate of Egghead. Egghead was just like a normal winter island. Vegapunk modified it so the sky and the cloud technology and hover technology could work there. This is just natural with the Treasure Tree Atom, okay? So this is pretty interesting. Also, does this mean that Lilith, because I mean the Straw Hats changed out of their Egghead attire, but they still should have like their Dom shoes and everything, right? Like Lilith is still wearing them, I believe, because she hasn't changed outfits. Lilith is still dressed like she always was. So would the Dom shoes, like the hover shoes, still work on this island? I feel like they would, because she just said specifically hover technology works here, okay? So yeah, this is very fascinating, and I'm sure we might even have like a little subplot of Lilith being the one to go around and study all of the technology of Elbaph and how this operates, and maybe that'll be something we'll see, like Lilith in a little workshop with Kuma, trying to do the best she can to fix him up, and also trying to just like figure out everything in Elbaph, because Vegapunk has been here before, but I don't know how much time like Vegapunk has had to like examine all of the nature of Elbaph and the tree and really scientifically like discover what this is. Okay, so maybe that'll be something we explore. I mean, Lilith is here, so yeah, I feel like at some point it's going to be Lilith, Bonnie, and Kuma that are going to go off on their own little thing, and we're going to focus on the Straw Hats for a while, and that's just how I think this is going to go down. But anyway, Bonnie is there as well, yes, and she's like, eyes are sparkling as she's looking at the giant ship that's floating down towards them and everything. So that ship docks, the Straw Hats get off, Nami sees Robin, and so Robin cut her hair, and Nami's just like, hey, nice hair, girl, good job. And Robin's like, oh yes, and Nami, fantastic outfit. I can see that you're getting into the Elbaph spirit. Nami doesn't say anything about that, but like, yeah, Road did undress all of the Straw Hats and then dress them up in Viking attire, so probably best not to just think about that, But yeah, they got Viking outfits, but yeah, that's how they got them. Speaking of Road, he has been crucified. Yeah, he is all chained up, and he is crucified on a big wooden cross, and they just, like, lug him out of the ship and just plant him right there in front of the pub. And just like, you stay there and you think about what you've done. That's a paddling, sir. Okay. So he's all chained up. He's knocked out. He's still kind of loopy from from Goldberg and Gerd's combo attack in the last chapter. And so then we have Hiruden. So Hiruden is meeting with Luffy, okay? And so it's like, Luffy, how you been? It's like, Hiruden! Luffy actually remembers his name. That is incredible. It's kind of a hard name to remember. It's hey, Hiruden, how you doing? It's like, I'm doing great. It's been so long since Dressrosa. Anyway, crew, this is a Yonko, Monkey D. Luffy. Congrats, by the way, on being a Yonko. I knew you could do it. Anyway, Luffy, this is my crew, the new giant pirates. The 4 of us are your subordinates. So there's 5 members of the crew, but he removed Road from it. Now, I don't know if that's just a joke, and then Road's in the background all kind of loopy on the cross, and he's like, it's 5. No, it's 4. We're gonna have a long talk with you after this, okay? So I don't know if that's like seriously like Hiruden is kicking Road out of his crew, like, you know what? After that shit you pulled with the Straw Hats, I told you, you know what? Hiruden should kick him out, really. Because imagine if this was like Zoro in this situation, right? So basically the captain comes up to you and says, hey, I've decided to ally with the Straw Hat Pirates. We're gonna be their subordinate crew. We're gonna be part of the Grand Fleet, okay? And then another member of the crew, Rode, was like, I disagree with you, Captain. I'm not listening to those Straw Hats. They're lesser than us. They're humans. We're giants. What do you do as the captain at that point? He's just like, all right, there's the door then. All right, I'm the captain. I'm the one that makes the rules around here. It could be an Usopp Luffy situation where maybe Rode could have challenged Hiruden and be like, all right, I'll fight you for the captain position. That didn't happen as far as we're concerned. Rode was just being an asshole here, and he chose to like, well, I'm not going to leave the crew, but I'm also not going to listen to them. In fact, I'm going to kidnap them and throw them in my Lego city. So I think Hiruden has every single right at this point, honestly, as the captain of a pirate crew, to kick Rode to the curb and just be like, you're out, you're done. I'll find another navigator somewhere, all right? You didn't listen to my order. And, you know, we don't stand for that shit in my crew, okay? Because that's what the job of a captain has to do. I feel like Zoro would have a similar viewpoint here, okay? Kind of going back to some parallels here. But, you know, even with, like, the Usopp and Luffy situation, that wasn't as bad as, like, what Rode was doing. It was basically a disagreement between what they were going to do with the Mary. Usopp challenged Luffy, he lost, and there's repercussions for that, okay? So, yeah, this is even worse, though, from what Rode did, right? Anyway, so they all meet up and everything like that. You know, you have Stanson, you have Goldberg, you have Gerd, and you have Hiruden, and they're all meeting the Straw Hats, and that's really nice. So, they mentioned Big Mom. Hiruden's like, you know, ever since we got the news that Big Mom was defeated at Wano, and he mentions that news doesn't usually, you know, get to Elbaph too much. I mean, like, it's not as isolated as Wano was, but it's also not in the current of things either. I'm sure the Giants get the news, but might be a little bit delayed every now and then, right? And I'm sure a lot of the Giants, like even Dorian Bragi mentioned, they can't even really read the newspapers too much because the print's too small, but they can find out, you know, from word of mouth and things like that, what's happening in the world. But yeah, ever since you guys defeated Big Mom, you know, we've heard that story. We wanted to, you know, congratulate you. Everybody got excited. And they're like, whoa, Big Mom, what? You know, because the Straw Hats, I think like Sanji and Luffy might know a little bit that, you know, well, yes, Nami would, because Chiffon told her all about Lola and how Lola had a deal, where Big Mom had a deal to marry off Lola to the Giants, to Loki, and that arranged marriage fell through and all that. So the Straw Hats would have a general idea that, like, you know, Big Mom doesn't like, or the Giants don't like Big Mom too much, and there's like some animosity there, but they don't know the full story. They don't know the full story about Mother Caramel or anything like that, or what Big Mom did when she was a child. They just know that the Giants don't like Big Mom too much. Gerd even mentions, yeah, I used to like Lin Lin when we were kids. We were friends when growing up, but she did something that our culture deems unforgivable. What was that? Killing our village elder. Yeah, I'd say most cultures probably deem that unforgivable if you just walk in and kill the village elder. Yeah, I'd say that's probably a thing. She ate too much semla, and that's why she was exiled for all eternity. Okay, so it's banquet time, right? Not exactly. I mean, Luffy and Usopp and everybody are really excited, but this is another great moment because Robin is like, hey, guys, no big deal. I can go do this by myself, but Saul is here. It's been a very long time. I really want to meet him. You guys go enjoy the banquet. I will go see Saul. I will meet up with you guys later, okay? And that would have been, I think, a perfectly fine way to go about it. Like, if that's how Oda wanted to write it, I think that could be understood. We could have maybe had Robin go off and meet Saul on her own, and then we could have the Straw Hats in the banquet hall, and they meet up again later anyway. But no. All of the Straw Hats at once unanimously agree, oh no, we can put off the banquet. Robin, this is important. This is you meeting the person you thought was dead, your friend. We want to meet him too. We want to go. We want to be there for you for that. Let's all go. We can come back here later, right, Hiruden? And Hiruden's like, oh yeah. Yeah, actually, it might actually help because we have that giant moose we still need to cut up and cook. Yeah, you know what? You guys take your time. Take your time. Go down to the school, see Saul, bring him back here. We'll all have a big banquet together. Why not? It's like, all right, everybody, we're holding off the banquet for a little while. I like that moment. I like the moment where the Straw Hats are all just one big family, and even, like, Luffy turned down food for this. He turned down food for this. He was like, oh, giant banquet, let's go. Oh, Robin wants to go meet somebody. Actually, Luffy's the one that brings the contention up. When Robin says, hey, I'll just go on my own, guys. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about me. I'll take care of everything. I'll be fine. Luffy is the one that says, hey, no way, I'm going too. I want to meet this guy too. Come on, Robin, you're my friend. And, you know, this guy protected one of my family. I want to go, right? So Priorities. Luffy has them. Yes, absolutely. They all do, really. So they all hop into the mist ship, and Gerd starts a paddling, and they always like, oh yeah, it's a little bit of a distance to get to kind of anywhere on Elbaph, but it's a little far to go to the school where Saul teaches. So everybody get on my ship, and I'll row you, I'll paddle you over to the school. And everyone's like, awesome, okay, great. Yeah, Luffy says, listen, Robin, as a captain of my crew, I have to give my greetings to the people who have taken care of my nakama. I love that line. I love it. So yeah, Dory, Broggy, and Hiruden, they're like, all right, we'll be waiting for you right back here. I'm sure nothing weird will happen while you guys are off on your own. Also, the Strats just want to see Elbaph, and we do too. I mean, this village is cool, and I want to see more about the village, but we got to explore as much as we can while we're here. All right, we're only going to be in Elbaph for, I don't know, apparently according to Louis Arnault, don't overstay your welcome, so I don't know how long we're going to stay here for. All right, so they're sailing. Now they have a sky ship, basically, that allows them to sail, like, wherever they need to on Elbaph. So they go to a different location on the sun level. Usopp even brings up, he's like, oh, hey, so even the warriors of Elbaph need to study too, huh? And he's like, yeah, Saul Sensei, you know, Professor Saul, Dr. Saul, PhD, he mainly teaches history and various books. Books are in quotes here in this translation. I find it funny that, like, I know it's probably like the books from Ohara, very unique, special books you don't see anywhere else in the world that have probably been outlawed by the government. But the way that it's said here is kind of funny. Gerd is like, yeah, Saul teaches us about history, and he uses something called books. You ever hear that? You ever hear of books, these things that have paper in them from dead trees? It's weird. Yeah, anyway. So we see the Warrior Spring and the Owl Library. All right, this is really cool. So, you know, everything here is made on the branches of the Treasure Tree Atoms. So they see a massive, well, to Gerd and the Giants, it's a spring or like a pond or like a small little lake. But to the Strats, this is a massive sea. It might as well be. And there's even a beach with sand. And she mentions, well, yeah, I mean, parts of the tree are older than others, and, you know, erosion and stuff still occurs. So, you know, the fossilized part of the tree turns into sand, and so that's why there's a beach there. There is no high tide and low tide, because it's not the ocean. But other than that, you know, from the Strat's perspective, it is basically a sea, and there is still current because of a giant waterfall. It's not just standing water. So there's a big waterfall coming down from higher up in the tree, so it basically mimicks an ocean or a large sea for the Strats, right? And you see the Owl Library, which is a big building on the side of the branch, and it's an awesome fantasy setting. I want to go here. I want to go to an amusement park that's designed after this place, you know? The scale of this in the anime is insane. I cannot wait until we get to that point. It's a while left, and, you know, the One Piece anime is on break for right now until, like, April, I think it's coming back, and we still have all of the latter half of Egghead to deal with, but eventually when we get here, oh, it's going to be so worth it, right? This is like right out of a Miyazaki movie, okay? So, you know, Luffy is just like, okay, to be fair, Luffy is like, I think at this point he's like, yeah, let's go see Saul instead of going to that banquet. And right about now, Luffy's like, all right, everybody, let's go see Saul, say hi, and bring him back to that banquet. Because I think Luffy is now like, oh wait, I actually am kind of hungry. All right, let's go meet Saul. I'll say thank you. Hey, thank you for meeting Robin and being nice. All right, let's go. Let's go eat now. Okay, I'm hungry. All right, but so Luffy tries to, like, you know, run off the ship and just be like, let's go see him. And then Nami's the one that grabs him, like, hey, easy there, Zippy. Okay, listen, here's the deal. This is Robin's moment. We can be here for her. She wants us to be here for her, but she has to be the one to go and you know, meet Saul, okay? So Robin walks off of the ship. She's on the beach. They're about to head over to the Owl Library. However, and Robin is so nervous. It's so nice. And she's just like, oh, I'm nervous. Whew, my heart's pounding. I'm gonna meet Saul. Okay, this is actually happening. I thought he was dead. I didn't think this was actually ever going to happen. Also, you know, to add to it, dude, how many times, kind of like with Brook, how Brook kept hallucinating about his crew still being alive. Dude, how many times in Robin's life, when she was a little kid, sleeping in an alley, cold and alone, has she probably had a dream about her mom being there and Saul being there and Clover and everybody? Like, she's there crying, and then her mother shows up in the alley with an umbrella and a blanket and is like, it's okay, Robin, I'm still alive, let's go back home. And she's like, yay, Mom! And then she wakes up and, like, she's still in the alley all cold and alone. And, you know, it's like, yeah, that probably happened a lot. So now this is actually actually, like, it, and eventually I'm sure Robin just, like, put it out of her mind. Just like, those aren't real, those are just dreams and fantasies. My mom is dead, Saul is dead, Clover is dead, O'Hara burned to the ground. Everybody's gone, you know, I'm on my own kind of situation until she met the Straw Hats. But now she has to, like, bring back those because Saul's not dead. So she's nervous, and as they're walking on the beach, and then another giant, a female giant, runs out of the owl library and is running on the beach and is like, wait, Saul, he's fallen and can't get up. So this is probably the same person we heard from a couple chapters ago with the life alert kind of situation, right? Wait a minute, this giant is wearing heels. She's Rhodes! Sister, probably. No, yeah. Maybe it's Ripley. Maybe it's Ripley, the giant that the bartender mentioned, like, give the food to over at, you know, Elbaph or up in the Sun Village. I mean, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't know. We only know a certain name of giants. It's probably something completely unrelated, but, you know, it's just how it is. So, yeah, that giant's there and just mentions that, like, oh, he's fallen and can't get up and I don't know what to do. And then the Straw Hat's like, Luffy's like, oh, come on, we came all this way to see him. We gave up a banquet to come here, right? Sanji is like, oh, no. The reunion with Robin's benefactor after 22 years has been ruined. So this is like almost like the reaction from the fan base that Oda put in here. That's actually really cool. Where, you know, Sanji is like, wait a minute. You mean to tell me we had all this hype for Robin to meet Saul again and then it gets ruined just like that? How dare you? What kind of cruel man, what kind of cruel god would write a story like this, right? Chopper immediately busts into action. He's like, I'm a doctor. I can examine him. Where is he? Usopp's like, yeah, Chopper, you heal him up right good. We're gonna write our own story, you know? We're gonna make sure Robin has this reunion if it's the last thing we do. Oh my god. Anyway, so the giant points over. He's like, Saul's right over there. And we just see Saul face down on the beach. Half of his body's in the water. And he's just there, and he is not moving. He is just stationary. And Robin is just like laughing. She's just like, oh, that's so funny. And all the Straw Hats are like, Robin, why are you laughing at a mortally injured person? He's like, no, guys, no, I get it, it's fine, but it's fine. So she walks over and she's like, you guys stay back, I got this. She walks over and she's like, I got all nervous for nothing. So she just walks right up to Saul. She doesn't say anything. And then Saul raises his head slowly and is like, Gwah! And then it just zooms out and he's just like, that. And then Robin is just like, and then Saul's like, all right, you're not surprised, are you? And she's just like, and she just smiles. And this is a perfect recreation of how they first met. If you go back to One Piece Volume 41, on sale now, and you go check out chapter 392, it's an exact shot for shot. The way that Saul is laying down, the way that he's like, rah, you know, tries to scare whoever walks up to him, and then it pans out, and then Robin, even as a child, she was not scared, and she is certainly not scared now, and she just smiles, and he gets up, and he's just like, oh, I knew it wasn't gonna scare you. It's just that I was so nervous. I didn't know how to properly meet you after so long, so I thought we would recreate our first meeting, so I ran out here and dived into the sand. Didn't tell anybody about it either, so everybody thought I just had a heart attack or something, right? But it's just like, yeah, it's the best I got. I'm sorry, I'm a dork. And he's like, you're not a kid anymore, although I guess even back then you weren't really scared of me. And so he starts laughing, you know, the dare she. And Robin is just like, that laugh of yours hasn't changed, Saul. So Saul picks up Robin and holds her close to his face, and he's just like, oh, it's been so long. Oh my goodness, you've grown into such a beautiful woman. You look just like Olvia. Keep in mind, this is probably like, you know, and she's even like, my mother? Oh, like, Robin probably doesn't, I mean, she thinks about her mom, but like probably the more often than not, she tries not to, because probably the more times she thinks about her mother, she just probably gets more sad. And her mother was a criminal, so no one around her is going to talk about Olvia, right? Nobody, like all the scholars of O'Hara would have said the nicest things about Olvia. They're all dead, right? So it comes down to really just like, I'm sure she doesn't get compliments like, oh, you look like your mother, or your mother was such a wonderful person. She never gets that stuff, okay? So this is probably, that's something that's like, you know, in her brain, like, oh, I look like I look like my mother. Okay. Oh yeah, I never even really considered that. Okay, yes. Well, thank you. It's a compliment I've never received before, you know, and that's so sad.
Hey everybody, Editing Teching here again, to mention something very obvious I just noticed in the chapter and did not mention when I was reviewing it. Saul has a peg leg. Yeah, so I'm assuming either that happened while getting away from O'Hara, or maybe that was maybe got, snapped off because of frostbite, or they had to amputate it or something. Not exactly sure, but yeah, there's not very many peg leg characters in One Piece. We got Saul and we got Zeph. And I mean, there might be other characters, I guess technically Frankie had to rebuild his body, so he's robotic and stuff like that. But yeah, I did not notice that the first time I read through this. Saul has a peg leg. His right leg is a peg leg. So yeah, he got banged up pretty bad. But you know what? All things considered, he still looks pretty much like himself. So I'd say he got off easy, but he did lose part of his leg.
But anyway, yeah, so she remembers her mom. It's Robin, you cannot give up on the future. You will live on. You will see the future, and you will understand some days. Saul says, your eyes just look just like hers. They're so full of kindness. Hey, did you hear Vegapunk's broadcast? And Robin's like, well, I didn't hear all of it because I was kind of there. I was also injured by something that we never really went into. But yeah, I was injured at the time, but I heard part of it. The rest of it was in the newspaper. So Saul talks a little bit about Vegapunk's message. He says that, well, he was a scientist, so he never tries to lecture about what is good or what is evil, but he did score a victory for the people of O'Hara, the scholars that were on the island. The words that Vegapunk said were the words that were left by Clover and the scholars and Olvia there, okay? So it was like that should have been taken away and covered up by the government, but Vegapunk brought it to the world as his dying breath, So, he was able to avenge the scientists of O'Hara a little bit there, okay? He risked his life to say it, and they made a huge step forward, okay? Robin kind of goes up and kind of feels Saul's face. Now, his face is still relatively the same. It's covered in a couple of scars. It's not horribly, mutilated or anything like that. He's got some scars up here on next to his eye, another scar that's kind of running down his face here, but he's not missing his hair or anything like that. He's still distinguishable as Saul. He's like, hey, do your scars hurt? And then Saul's like, Dara she. Oh yeah, I'm surprised that I was able to survive that. Honestly, I didn't think I was going to get out of that. So the fire melted Aokiji's ice. Next thing I know, I'm floating in the ocean trying not to drown. And then, some other stuff happened and I ended up in Elbaph, which, O'Hara was in the West Blue, and that does border the Calm Belt into the New World, and Elbaph would be roughly around there, so, maybe that's how he ended up there. We don't really go into the particulars. In fact, Saul even brings up, I heard them all saying all those mean things about you, Robin, and it makes me really angry. Now, Robin is going to change the subject, and we move to the end of the chapter here, and it's a nice, beautiful moment. But it does bring up a thing, and I'm sure this will be addressed, and there is a good reason for it. You can kind of arrive at the conclusion yourself. But, if Saul was alive this whole time, and granted, okay, at first, he was wounded and bleeding, and he got taken to Elbaph, and he had to be all patched up and everything like that. It took him a while to heal. But after, several months, or maybe a year or so after O'Hara, and he was kind of on his way to recovery, he heard that Robin is out there in the world with a bounty of 79 million. She's being called the Devil Child, and so many people are saying all these horrible things about her. I am sure at some point Saul wanted to go and find her, and he's like, it'll be okay, Robin, I'll bring you back to Elbaph, it'll be alright, we'll live forever in happiness here or whatever, you don't have to worry about people hating you anymore. I'm sure Saul wanted to do that, but Saul's a giant, he's not and he's also a criminal. If he was found out to be alive, he would also be hunted down by the government. So there's reasons for this, but I'm sure they will go into that later. But that is not important for right now, because when Saul brings that up, I heard they were saying all these horrible things about you, Robin is just like, Saul, I don't want to talk about depressing things. I've had enough of that for a lifetime. I just want you to praise me for being alive. Now, what this is, when she was a kid, and we see her at the cliff again one more time in the flashback, right? She was ready to die, and she was like, why do I have to keep on living? Why do I have to keep on living? And I bet you the image that was in Robin's head this entire time was when Saul tells her you gotta live on, and her mother tells her you gotta live on, somebody at some point tells Robin, you did it. You lived on. Good for you for surviving. You made it through the toughest thing that any person has to deal with. You made it through this. And I bet as a child, Robin just wanted to hear that all the time. She wanted somebody that she cared about to come up to her and tell her, it's over, you made it through, you're good. And once again, probably after she grew up, she was just like, I'm never going to get that. I'm never going to get that praise. I'm never going to get somebody telling me that I made it through and I survived, because everybody's dead. Saul's dead, Olvia's dead, Clover's dead, all the scholars are dead. Everybody's dead. I'm never going to get that. And once again, here, it's almost like she has to like bring back that dream she had as a child of like, Saul, I just want you to tell me that I made it. Can you tell me that? And then Saul is like, oh, of course. You lived well, Robin. 22 years, you lived well, and now you're here to see me again. Oh, I'm so happy. And then Robin just goes in for a hug, and then she just starts to bawl, and Saul starts to bawl. I wanted to see you again, Saul. I did too, Robin. It's all right. We're all here together. It's fine. Is that your crew over there? Oh, you have a robot. That's really fun. Oh, is that a skeleton? Holy shit, you have a skeleton on your crew. That's awesome. His name's Brook. Holy shit, is that Jinbei, one of the warlords of the sea? Yeah, he's Boss Jinbei. He's really cool. Luffy's our captain. Oh, yeah, he's a Yonko. I know him. Yeah, okay. Oh my god, it's been so long. So that's the end of the chapter, and the Straw Hat crew is just in the background, and they're all just bawling their eyes out. Well, not all of them. So we see, last page, we see on the edge of the beach, Usopp, Chopper, Nami, Sanji, Frankie, and Brook all crying their eyes out. Like, this is such a tearful reunion. They're turning around, though, when they say it, because they're almost like they don't want to be seen crying, seeing Robin, seeing them cry. So they all turn around and are like, it's so sad. We see Luffy in a side panel, and he's just laughing, because he's like, she, this is good, this is happy, this was a nice chapter. Nothing crazy happened in this chapter. I like this. This is fun. This is why I set out to sea to find the One Piece. There's the moments like this right here. So Luffy's, happy about it. And then we see Zoro kind of leaning on a rock, like Luffy's sitting on top of this boulder on the beach, or maybe it's part of the tree, and then Zoro's also kind of leaning on it too. And we don't see Zoro's expression. And then Jinbei's standing to the right of them, and he's just standing on the beach, and we don't see his expression either. So Oda does this every now and then. Whenever the Straw Hats are having a big emotional moment, Oda is very careful to think about like how each Straw Hat would react to this and what they would do and what they wouldn't do. It actually adds like some characterization and flavor to like not all the Straw Hats are like they're not all gonna cry at the same thing, right? Like Luffy's not a crier in this situation, Zoro is not a crier, and Jinbei's kind of just the same way. It doesn't mean they're not emotional. It doesn't mean they're not happy for Robin. It just means that like Zoro's not gonna probably cry at something like this. Same deal with Zoro did not cry when the Mary was burned. When Shirahoshi was doing the pinky promise with everybody, Zoro did not do that. I don't know, Frankie might have not have done that either. I know Zoro did not. And it wasn't because he didn't care, it was just like, I promise, I just don't do the pinky promise thing. That's Zoro's personality, right? And so I like that Oda does that. Just like that the Straw Hats have different reactions. Most of them are very, very emotional and they start to cry. Jinbei, Zoro, Luffy, they have different emotions and different ways that they express that, right? Okay. So, yeah. Break next week, and then there will be another issue, should be like right before Christmas, okay? So that should be the last chapter you're probably going to get here of 2024, okay? And then it'll be a color spread next time, so get ready for that. Oh, you know what? This was a good chapter. This was a beautiful, beautiful chapter. I think Oda just wanted to like uplift our spirits. I think especially since, the break and he was ill and everything. And he even wrote a message that's like, I'm sorry, everybody. I said I was going to work hard and then I got sick and I had to take a break. And it's like, Oda, dude, you're fine, but we appreciate the effort. Oh my god, this was a good chapter. So, yeah, we didn't find anything extra about, like, Loki or, like Luffy's side quest, and we didn't see, like, the shadowy silhouette person anywhere, but that's fine. We didn't need that in this chapter. We needed to see Saul and Robin be reunited, and all of the strife she has been through, and the reward that she has received there is that Saul is alive, okay? Oda cannot do this all the time. We cannot have like, oh yeah, Belmir was actually in the dungeon this whole time, and now Nami is reunited with her. We can't do this with all the Straw Hats. But the fact that Oda selected Robin to be the one to be reunited with her friend that she thought was dead, that's really powerful. The only other Straw Hat, I guess Luffy and Sabo, though we didn't know about Sabo at the beginning of the story. We didn't find out about Sabo until, like, you know, over 500 chapters into One Piece, pretty much. But maybe Brook. Maybe if Brook met Yorkie again, maybe I'd be okay with that. But we can't have, you know, Frankie runs into Tom, and Usopp's like, oh, my mom was alive the whole time, and Sanji's mom was still alive the whole time, and Kuino was actually Tashigi. She just became farsighted and lost her memory all of a sudden. We can't do all that, but this is nice when we do get this, okay? When we do have this moment. So just cherish this moment in this chapter. Hug a loved one, ladies and gentlemen. This will be Tekking 101 signing out. You all have a fantastic evening.